You're standing in the grocery aisle again, doing that weird little dance between the cart and the calculator. You toss in a few basics, eggs, milk, bread, maybe some chicken, and the total in your head is already higher than it used to be. You're thinking, did I accidentally wander into Whole Foods? What is going on? Then later that night, you open your phone and see markets hit all-time high, unemployment still low, soft landing is here. And you're like, okay, I'm sorry, what economy are they talking about? Because in my economy, my rent is up, my groceries are up, my paycheck is the same, and everyone I know is exhausted. My name's Mark, and I spend way too much time thinking about that exact disconnect, the space between what the charts say and what your wallet feels, and this background question a lot of people have but rarely say out loud. Why hasn't the economy just collapsed yet, and are we all just pretending it's fine? What I want to do with you in this video is unpack that in a way that actually helps you, not with scary doomsday graphs or buy gold and canned beans, but with a clearer picture of what's really been keeping things going, why it feels weird right now, and what you should actually be doing with your own money and life in a world that constantly feels one bad headline away from cracking. Because if you understand why it hasn't fallen apart yet, you'll stop being paralyzed by any day now fear and start quietly preparing for whatever comes without losing your mind in the process. Let's get into it. The vibes say crisis, the data says we're fine. Kind of. So first thing, there's this huge gap right now between vibes and data. The vibes, everything is broken. The data, GDP's growing, unemployment's low, corporate earnings aren't terrible, stock market isn't in a crater. How can both be true? Picture a car with the check engine light on, weird noises coming from under the hood, but it still starts and gets you to work. That's the economy. A few reasons it looks okay on paper. People are still spending money on travel, restaurants, concerts. A lot of big companies still have strong profits. Unemployment numbers, at least the headline ones, are not disaster level. But under that, credit card balances are at record highs, delinquencies are creeping up, a chunk of people are living one bad month away from real trouble. Why this matters? If you only look at headlines, you either think it's all going to zero or it's actually fine, I'm just bad with money. The truth is in the messy middle. The system is still moving, but how it's moving is very different from what it was 10, 15 years ago. Takeaway. Stop expecting one giant collapse moment like a movie. Start paying attention to the slow squeeze you're already feeling. Shock absorbers. Why it hasn't blown up yet? Because the system has had a bunch of shock absorbers built in over the last few years. Think about what's happened since 2020. Massive stimulus checks and unemployment boosts, business loans and bailouts, student loan pauses for literal years, super low interest rates for a while that let people refinance mortgages and debt. All of that acted like this giant financial airbag. Even when everything closed, people lost jobs, supply chains went nuts, money was still being poured into the system, balance sheets got padded, people built up savings for a bit. Then, as rates rose and prices spiked, those savings and buffers started getting used up. So right now, a lot of households are in this weird in-between. Not collapsed, not comfortable, just sort of stretched. The other shock absorber has been the labor market. Companies have been weirdly reluctant to fire people in big numbers, maybe because hiring has been painful and they're scared to lose talent. Why this matters? The lack of collapse isn't magic. It's the result of temporary cushions that are, in many cases, slowly wearing down. Takeaway. Assume some of the padding in your life is temporary and use whatever's left of it to build something more permanent. Savings, skills, lower fixed expenses while you still can. Debt is keeping the party going and making the hangover worse. Another big piece of the puzzle is debt. One of the main reasons things haven't completely seized up is because we've put it on the card, literally and metaphorically. Households, record credit card balances, buy now, pay later, car loans with wild monthly payments, corporations, cheap borrowing over the last decade to fund buybacks, expansion, whatever. Governments, enormous deficits year after year. Debt lets you pull spending from the future into today. That's why malls aren't all empty and restaurants still have lines. The spending didn't vanish. It just shifted from paid with cash I actually have to paid with credit I hope future me can handle. Story-wise, you probably know this on a personal level.
Maybe your income didn't jump enough to match rent, groceries, lifestyle upgrades, but your ability to click pay later did. Zoom out and the whole economy has kind of done that. Growth is being propped up by money that technically really isn't there yet. Why this matters? Debt doesn't cause an immediate collapse. It delays it, then makes the correction sharper when it comes. I'm not saying you can never use debt. I am saying in a world where the macro system is leaning heavily on debt, you don't also want to be maxed out. Takeaway: if you want to sleep at night, aim to move in the opposite direction of the crowd. Pay down high-interest stuff as aggressively as you reasonably can. Be careful about adding new payments just because something fits monthly. Create a small buffer, even $1,000 to $3,000, that isn't borrowed. Two economies: average data, extreme experiences. Here's a really important thing to understand. When someone says the economy, they're averaging the experiences of millions of people who are living in totally different realities.
On one side, people who own assets, homes, investments, businesses. Their net worth often went way up with rising stocks and home prices. Higher prices pinch, but they have cushions. On the other side, people who rent, live paycheck to paycheck, and have debt. They got the higher prices, but not the asset boost. For them, it already feels like collapse. Same country, same inflation rate, same Fed decisions, completely different lives. I talk to people who say, "Everyone keeps saying the economy is strong. I don't care. My rent is up $400 and I'm drowning." That's not drama. That's their actual economy. Why this matters? Waiting for some big official collapse misses the point. For some people, the collapse is already here, quietly, without any breaking news banner. Takeaway? Instead of obsessing over whether the economy is going to crash, ask, am I on the fragile side of this divide or the resilient side? And how do I move even one step toward resilience? That might look like building savings, getting out of predatory debt, or increasing your earning power. The lag. Why it feels like we're in slow motion. Another reason it feels so strange is lag. Economic changes don't show up overnight. Rate hikes take months, sometimes years, to fully ripple through. Businesses don't fire people the day a chart ticks down. They wait, they watch. People don't default the second prices go up. They slowly drain savings and increase debt first. So you get this sensation of everyone says something bad is coming, then nothing obvious happens for a while, so you think maybe it's fine, but underneath, pressure is building. It's like bending a plastic ruler. For a long time, it looks unchanged, right up until the second it snaps. I'm not saying we're guaranteed a snap. I'm saying the absence of immediate disaster is not proof that everything is solid. Takeaway? Don't let nothing has happened yet be your excuse to do nothing. Use the apparent calm to build your emergency fund, fix your spending leaks, update your skills, lower your fixed monthly commitments even a little. By the time the lag catches up, you want to be the one holding an umbrella, not looking for one at the gas station for $29.99. So what do you do in an economy that should have collapsed but hasn't? Okay, so we've covered shock absorbers, debt as a delay button, two-tier realities, and the lag. What do you actually do with all that? A few guiding principles that honestly help in almost any economic environment. 1. Stop trying to predict the exact moment of collapse. You and I are not the Fed. We don't need to call the top or bottom. We just need to not be wiped out by normal levels of chaos. 2. Get a little less fragile every month. Plus $50 to savings, minus $50 to a payment you don't need, one less impulse subscription, one more marketable skill. Tiny shifts add up fast over a few years. 3. Anchor your life on what you can control. Your savings rate, your spending choices, your career moves.
your attitude toward debt and risk. 4. Let go of the fantasy of a return to normal. We're not going back to 2015 prices and 2% mortgages like it's a software rollback. Plan for a world where things are a bit more expensive and a bit more unstable than you'd like, and build from there. Wrapping this up. So, why hasn't the economy collapsed yet? Because there were cushions, stimulus, savings, a strong job market. We'd been leaning harder and harder on debt. Averages hide how bad it already is for some people, and the effects of all this take time to fully show up. That's unsettling, sure, but it's also clarifying. You don't have to read every Fed speech, time the market perfectly, or live in constant fear of some giant crash tomorrow. You do have to be honest about how close to the edge you are. Use the time you have now to back away from that edge and build a version of your life that can handle rough weather, not just sunny days. So maybe after this video, give yourself 10 minutes to look at your monthly income and fixed expenses, check how much margin you actually have, and pick one small move. Pay a bit extra on a card, start a tiny automatic transfer, rethink one big purchase that makes you just slightly more resilient. Because whatever the macro headlines do, you'll sleep a lot better knowing you're not depending on the economy never wobbling to keep your life standing.